Hey guys, and welcome to Truck King. We have a unique opportunity today. We're here in Detroit with Ram, and they have lined up every single trim of the brand new Ram 1500 for us. So in this video, we're gonna drive them all from Tradesman to Tungsten and tell you the difference from a base Ram straight up to the most expensive one. Let's get into it. We start off with this, the Ram Tradesman, the most basic truck in the lineup. However, this truck we have today is fit with the 3-liter Hurricane engine, so if you do want to step up to more power, you can do that. The base engine here is still the 3.6-liter V6 hooked to the e-torque system, but our truck today does have the upgraded power. Now for styling, you're getting the more basic sort of black plastic grille up front. Of course, a beautiful set of steel wheels, which on a basic truck is exactly what you want. Now we get here to these towing mirrors that are added on this truck. I want to point out they are now manual pullouts, which is okay. The Ram mirrors were always manual. This is a different design though, no longer the flip-up design, just a straight pull-out. And that's because you're getting a spot mirror down below, which is also power adjustable. It's not often that you get a spot mirror that you don't have to get out and actually adjust yourself, so I like that. Otherwise, you'll see no running boards, no other kind of creature comforts on this truck. We get around to the bed. Our truck today is fit with the bed step. And it's a basic truck, but look, you're still getting a dual exhaust down there, so pretty cool. And one thing I appreciate too, a damped tailgate. So even on the least expensive version, you're still getting that damped tailgate and LED lights in your bed. So you're probably gonna hear me say this a lot while we drive this truck. These days, a base truck is just not, basic transportation. They've built so much into these base models. Yeah, they offer a ton of convenience features, and you'll see even more of them when we get inside. We need to look in the back here of the Tradesman too, because with the work truck, you might be hauling people or stuff, so the back seat really does matter. And maybe you're hauling babies too, so I'll start with the baby seat situation. There's top tethers, 3 of them along the back, and then what I really like, there's lower latch in all 3 positions, including a center lower latch position, which you actually don't see that often in pickup trucks. So let me climb in. And basically, like every half ton on the market today, I have so much leg room. These trucks with the crew cabs have gotten so big that, yeah, you can be a big dude, 6'2", 300 pounds, and you can fit back here in total comfort. I love how big these back seats are. And now let me show you what I think is maybe the most important feature back here. 60-40 split. You fold these guys up and you get this massive flat floor, because once again, a lot of times you're not hauling people, you got a lot of stuff in here, and it's great not to have to deal with that transmission tunnel hump or anything like that. So love the flat floor and love all the space in the back of this Ram. Now we're in the interior, and you'll see what I mean about it not being so basic anymore. First of all, I have to point out, we do still get a bench seat here, which I appreciate. If you need to pack 6 people into your work truck, you can do that. And then if you don't need to, well, this easily folds down, reveals your couple of cup holders here and a massive storage bin, which is nice. Now looking at the dash, we get an 8-inch touchscreen, 8.4 inches actually. And once again, I'm constantly impressed by these trucks because the 8-inch screen was the top trim screen, barely less than 10 years ago. So we've already grown so far that the 8-inch is now the standard. And for me personally, this is more than enough. It doesn't feel like it used to when you got into a base truck and it didn't have a screen or it had a tiny little 4-inch screen. The 8-inch screen is plenty, and it still runs Uconnect 5, so you're still getting all of the best infotainment features from Ram. Now just looking again at the dash, I love this massive storage container over here. Again, in a work truck, you want to have that space for stuff because you always got stuff. There's nice little storage up here on the dash too, again, to hold your odds and ends. And then for features, we get an integrated trailer brake controller down here. We get Ram's trailer steering, which, is really appreciated. If you have a trailer on, you turn that knob and it will actually turn the trailer for you. For 4-wheel drive, we just get high, and then we do have low, and then of course just 2-wheel drive, so no auto setting here, but that's okay. I even get a small screen up here in my driver info cluster. Once again, nice to have that. all the relevant information you could need is on that screen. No, it's not a fully digital setup, but for a base truck, you don't need that because this truck is about being affordable. And now we can go for a drive. So I will mention, we are just here on a Ram property in Detroit. I can't actually leave the property today, so we're just gonna kind of tool around here in their back parking lot a little bit, but it'll give us enough of a chance to feel the powertrain in this truck. And I'll remind you, this is the upgraded Hurricane, although it's not the high output. So here we have 420 horsepower, 469 pound-feet of torque. Let's feel it. And yes, those numbers are more than the old HEMI, and it absolutely feels like it. This thing gets up and goes. Honestly, even the turbo lag is basically non-existent, so the power feels really, really good. And again, I keep coming back to, it's a base truck, so it's great that you can get this high power option in your most basic model. This is the one you want to do work with. Now, the other number, which in my head is one of the most important numbers with the base truck, is payload. Payload these days in pickup trucks has been neutered because we're getting all these luxury trucks. We're getting trucks with so many features, so many options, that the payload numbers eventually come down, because the more you add to the truck, the less payload you can carry. But I was happy to see when I cracked the door jamb, or the door on this Tradesman, and looked at the door jamb, the payload here was a little bit over 1,600 pounds, which is a legitimate number for any half ton. I feel really good about that. And that's something I want you to pay attention to. As we move up in the trim walk, we will look at all the payload numbers and sort of see how they get smaller as the features grow. So yeah, the basics here on the Tradesman, it doesn't feel like a base truck anymore. You're getting so many great convenience features, and you can get that power. This package feels good. Most importantly though, what does it cost? Well, I'll throw up the prices right here. Now it's time to step up to the Bighorn trim, the next truck in the lineup. And this is, if you can kind of think of it as a Tradesman with more available features and some more style. And in the truck we are driving today, this Bighorn is fit with the base 3.6 liter V6. This thing makes 305 horsepower and 269 pound-feet of torque. And it'll be very interesting to feel the difference after we just got out of the Hurricane. So like I mentioned, Bighorn, a lot of it is about styling. You get this unique grille here on the truck we have today. It's all blacked out, which looks really sharp. Big black exposed tow hooks down below. As we roll down the side, these are optional wheels. Now the base wheel here is an 18-inch, but it's an alloy rather than the steelies over on the Tradesman. This is an optional 20-inch wheel. And again, Bighorn offers more of those options than the Tradesman does. As we roll back, you will notice a nice running board right there. Makes it easier to climb up in and out of this truck. And then as we get to the bed, we don't have the tonneau cover here. Of course, that was an option too on the Tradesman. What we also don't have is any exhaust down here. On the V6, they really hide that exhaust. So if you go for the twin turbo 3-liter, you're getting that super cool dual exhaust. But still a damped tailgate, I appreciate that. And one other feature I'll show you over here, we are getting a plug in the back end of this truck. Now this is just the 400-watt basic plug, but still nice to have power. And if you go for the upgraded engine in some of these trucks, you can now get up to 2 kilowatts of power, and hopefully some of those higher trim trucks have that. But now, let's hop inside and look at the differences in there. Moving inside, the difference is pretty stark getting out of that Tradesman. Now, to be fair, this Bighorn we're sitting in has a bunch of options added to it, but there's some things that the Tradesman can't even get where the Bighorn has these things available. For example, the massive 12-inch touchscreen here in my center stack. Nice to have on the Bighorn, but you do have to pay more for it. You'll notice the storage over here, rather than the big open bin, we actually get an upper glove box here in the Bighorn that the Tradesman did not have. 4-wheel drive auto is another thing that jumps out at me that's here in the Bighorn that we did not have in the Tradesman. Nice to have that setting. Just hit that button, and if you need the 4-wheel drive, it will kick in for you. And then this Bighorn does come standard with a bench seat, just like you saw in the Tradesman, but our truck has the upgraded cloth bucket seat. And what that really brings along is the convenience of this whole center console down here. So one of the neat tricks is this whole tray slides slides. So if you don't want those cup holders, you can get down into this massive storage bin down below. We also have wireless phone charging right here. They call it the Ram charger, which is kind of a great callback to a classic model. So yeah, love that. And then this top opens as well. You get an upper storage right there. And then another massive access into your lower storage. And you can even see here on the bottom, they put in some measurements and different charts for you, which is pretty cool. So yeah, nice to have all of these features. If you don't need to have 6 people in your truck and you can afford to get their center console, it does add a lot of utility to this Ram 1500. So now let's go ahead and take off. And once again, this is just the V6, so we're down, over 100 horsepower compared to the Hurricane. But if you want to save money, this is the engine you'll go for. So I'm going to punch it here exactly like I did in the last truck, and we'll see how it feels. Okay. You know what? Yeah, it didn't make me giggle like the last truck did, but it's certainly enough power. You know what? I don't want to live in a world where 300 horsepower is underpowered for a truck, and I don't think this is underpowered. For somebody who is, looking to work with it, but doesn't want to spend the money, doesn't need the upgraded powertrain, doesn't need the additional, tow capacity you get with that, I think this V6 is plenty. And of course, it does have the e-torque system. That is what Ram calls a motor starter generator. Essentially what it's doing, it's taking some load off the engine by spinning the serpentine belt for you and allowing you to access slightly more power while it's working. One of the big advantages I always think is it also smooths out some of the shifts because again, e-torque is able to take some of that load off the engine. It's not a massive difference. We've driven trucks with and without e-torque, but yeah, it is here as standard, so you don't have a choice. You have to get it, and it's nice that Ram did at least something to this V6 to provide sort of a little extra torque boost, a little extra smooth power. Now, I want to come back to payload, as we will in all of these trucks, because yes, once again, the story is exactly as I expected. As we move up trims, the payload falls, so this truck is about 200 pounds less payload than we had in the Tradesman at just over 1,400 pounds. Still not a bad number, but I'm really curious to see what the payload's going to be on those top trim trucks because it just keeps on shrinking as we move through the lineup. So yeah, that's it for Bighorn. On to the next trim. Next up on the list, the Ram 1500 Laramie. And yes, there was a time when Laramie was the top trim luxury truck in this lineup. Since then, there are 2 trucks that have jumped in front of this one, but still, this should be considered sort of the entry into the luxury truck world here at Ram. So first of all, you can see the unique styling, a bit of a different grille, and then this sport hood up here, which is different than the other trucks we have looked at. Now, Laramie does come standard with 20-inch wheels, but we have the optional 22s down there, and we have a bunch of options on this truck actually, which I'll get into. So moving back, I do have to point out the mirrors now because this is the upgraded towing mirror and it is all powered. So it's powered sliding in and out, power folding. You can adjust the spot mirror and the larger one from inside the truck. And then one of the coolest features are spotlights on the back, right back here, and on the front of the mirror. So especially at night, this truck can cast light all the way around it and really light up your workspace or cabin or wherever you happen to be at night. Coming back, same running board down there as we had on the last truck. Again, those 22s really do look good. Around the rear end, we're getting that Ram step. That is part of the trailer tow package on a lot of these trucks, so that's nice. Because we have the Hurricane here, we're getting the dual exhaust down below. And this is the first truck we get to that actually has the powered tailgate. So unlike just the regular damper, this tailgate will go up and down using an electric motor. So you can see kind of the features that Ram starts to add to bring you up the trim walk. And they're all just, convenience features, things that make life a little bit easier. And now let's hop inside and look at the differences there. Once we hit the Laramie, the back seat in this truck does change quite a bit, so I do want to show you some of the features. The first one that's cool, right under the floor mat on both sides of the truck, you have these storage bins, so you can hide a decent amount of stuff in there, and they even have little D-rings back here, so you can tie stuff down on your rear load floor. Now let me flip these up. We still have a 60-40 split, but you'll notice, unlike the Tradesman, it's not a fully flat floor because we have the track system here for the seats. I'll show you why in a moment. And we have this storage wall. Now you can tie it up like that to create little bins back here and get this space. Still a pretty decently large flat space, just not quite as good as the basic trucks. And now I'll throw these back down and hop in. Same amount of leg room here in this crew cab, and it is massive, so absolutely no issue with space. And then the party trick here is you grab a handle and yes, the rear seats actually do recline, and in this Laramie they're quite comfortable too, these nice leather seats. So you know what, it is pretty cool to have a rear seat in a pickup truck that reclines. After a hard day of work, or maybe at the barn riding your horse, you can hang out back here and relax. And then I'll show you this too, this whole center comes down, so not only do you get cup holders, but you also get your own little storage space as the rear seat passengers. Finally, you're also getting a 400-watt plug down here for rear seat passengers, heated rear seats, plus the USB-A and USB-C ports. So yes, this is another difference. As you climb up the trim walk, there's certainly more features for the folks in the back. Now we're inside this Laramie, and the biggest upgrades are all tech features, really. This truck does have some options on it, so it's not a base Laramie, but you'll notice the difference right away because, heck, we have more screens, including that new 10.25-inch touchscreen in front of the passenger. I do like the functionality of that screen. I don't like that it takes up that upper glove box space, so you do lose some storage space, but there's always going to be a trade-off, right? Then here in the center, we have a larger 14.5-inch display. And one thing on this truck that we haven't seen yet in the lineup, 4-corner air suspension. Now, when you get the larger screen, you actually get more controls on the screen and less physical buttons. So like my trailer brake controller gain is now a digital button, although we still luckily have the little paddles down here to squeeze. The control for the 4-corner air suspension is now a digital button down here on the bottom of my touch screen, and you get your parking sensors, and then the trailer steering. Now, the trailer steering knob is still here, but to turn it on and off, you're now using a digital button. So as the screen gets bigger, you lose some of the physical buttons. Luckily, in my opinion anyways, Ram keeps all the HVAC stuff readily available on physical buttons, so you don't have to go fiddling through screens to find that. Now, a couple other features you'll notice in this truck, we have dual wireless cell phone charging, so I can take my phone from there, put it over there, and it'll charge in both spots. That's definitely handy. The same reconfigurable console that I showed you out of the last truck. And again, we get the head-up display, full digital rear camera mirror up there, which is nice. And then also just a full 360-degree camera view. Up until now, all the trucks we've driven have only had rear cameras. This truck has all the cameras. So there's your basic view, the top down, and your rear. You can get a wide rear, front cross path, the front view with the top down, and here's your trailering view. You can zoom in on the hitch, plus predictive guidelines, so as I turn, you can watch where your wheels are going to be. You have a spot for 2 auxiliary cameras, so you could put one on the back of your trailer. Heck, you could put one inside your trailer if you want to monitor what's going on there while you're rolling down the road. That's pretty neat. And then if I hit the more cameras button, we come over here, surround cam. That takes us back here to all these views. So yes, a ton more camera views as well as you step up the trim walk. And now we'll go for a drive. I don't really need to talk about the power, I already did. This is the Hurricane turbocharged inline 6. The one feature on this truck that I have to mention in terms of the drive is the new active driving assist. Now, Ram does have hands-free active driving assist. That's level 2 autonomous, so the same thing as GM's Super Cruise and Ford's Blue Cruise. This Laramie doesn't have that, so active driving assist is essentially a combination of adaptive cruise control with lane centering. It will keep you in the middle of the lane on its own, but in this truck, you have to keep your hands on the wheel. When we get up into that top trim Tungsten, you'll see the actual hands-free active driving assist. So yes, more autonomous drive aids come to this truck too as you walk up the trim walk. And then finally I come back to payload, and actually this truck's pretty good too, and at just over 1,400 pounds. And now we move up to the Ram Rebel. Here also fit with the 3-liter Hurricane engine. Now the Rebel isn't the top dog off-roader in the lineup. This truck is meant to compete with trucks like the Ford F-150 Tremor and the Chevy Silverado Trail Boss. So what do you get when you go Rebel? Once again, unique styling, the two-tone paint job, the cool graphic on your rear quarter panel, but then also some functional upgrades like these 33-inch Goodyear Wrangler Duratracs, and those are wrapped around 18-inch wheels, because any off-roader will tell you want more sidewall and less wheel. So I'm happy it's not a 20 or a 22 or something here on the Rebel. So tires, a full skid plate package. On this truck sitting right here, we have the 4-corner air suspension, and then you also get an electronic rear locker for when things get sticky off-road. Now let's hop inside and I'll show you the unique styling on the interior of the Rebel. Now we're here inside the Rebel. The first thing that jumps out right away, all the red accents, and you getting it up here in the stitching on the dash, on the doors. It's a material. Then you have this sort of anodized metal trim that comes around your center stack. It's also here on my steering wheel, red stitching here. Yes, the red accents inside is what sets the Rebel apart, and then the Rebel stitching you get down here on your seats as well. Now as for features from behind the driver's seat, I mentioned outside we get a locker, so down here I get my locker button. Right next to it we get the button for Ram's Select Speed system. That is essentially off-road cruise control. It will handle the throttle and the braking for you, so you can concentrate on your hands. That's also unique here to the Rebel. And then in my center stack, we do have the upgraded 14-inch screen here, but what I do want to point out is off-road pages. So we click right there and we get all of our relevant off-road information. So it tells you what's locked up, what your transfer case is doing, your coordinates and your altitude. If you're really on an adventure, I love having those numbers with you. Accessory gauges, so you can keep an eye on heat, make sure everything's okay. Pitch and roll, so you can tell your buddies how steep the hill was and you can confirm it with an actual screen. Suspension, so if I crank up the air suspension or down, it'll actually show you what position you're in. And then wheel articulation is really neat. So yes, when you're in those big articulation moments, the truck will actually tell you which wheel is articulating and where they're sitting in relation to the other ones. It's just another feature that sort of eliminates the need for a spotter. It doesn't eliminate it, that's not the right way to put it, but it helps you if you don't have a spotter, because you can understand more of what the truck is doing from behind the wheel. Then finally you have a quick way to get over to your front-facing camera. You get those predictive guidelines. This is very important these days when off-roading, especially going up steep hills. It's nice to have the nose cameras to be able to see over the hill so you know what's coming rather than staring at the sky out of your windshield. So yes, nice that we get all of those off-road tech features here in the Rebel as well. And now let us go for a drive. Once again, this is the Hurricane i6 here in this truck, which feels so good. And again, I'll point out, it has a lot more power than the outgoing HEMI does. And that just means when you are off-road, you're going to have more power to tackle larger obstacles. And that's always a good thing. Now, we also get the autonomous drive features, so we do have active driving assist here on this truck. Not the hands-free active driving assist, but yes, you also get that, so when you're cruising down the highway, you're able to let the truck do sort of some of the driving for you with your hands on the wheel, of course. Now, from behind the wheel, and again, it's not a thorough shakedown today, but there's no real appreciable difference from a Rebel to, say the Laramie we just got out of. We have the four-corner suspension. Sure, the tires are going to feel different, and I will note the dirt tracks can be noisy tires on the highway, but for the most part, this drive's just as comfortable and nice as every other Ram in the lineup, and that's important. So when you go for the Rebel, you get the extra off-road capability, but you don't have to sacrifice the on-road ride, which is nice. Now, let's go back to the payload number, and once again, as we move up the trim, the payload number gets smaller. Here on this truck, it's just over 1,200 pounds. So that's it for Rebel. Now we'll go move on to the two top trim luxury trucks in the Ram lineup. And now we are here with the Ram 1500 Limited, and this is the first truck you get to in the lineup that has the standard high output version of this Hurricane. That is 540 horsepower, also sent through that 8-speed auto. So it'll be interesting to drive this thing and feel the HO power. Now, of course, the styling here, once again, is a bit different. You're getting a unique grille. If my dad was here, he'd call that a cheese grater grill. I do think it looks pretty nice, and that's one of the things that really sets these trucks apart is always the nose and the grille. But another thing on this truck, you're gonna notice the headlights are upgraded too, and they really have some cool depth to them, so that's a unique little styling feature here on the Limited as well, again, to set it apart from the more regular trucks. As we roll back, we get to a beautiful set of 22-inch wheels. 20s are standard on the Limited. Those are an optional set of tires. And then you'll also notice here, we have powered running boards that actually flip out when you open the door. Yet another luxurious feature. Now, this is the first truck we've driven today that has this 6-foot 4-inch bed. And I want to talk about the configurations real quick, because Ram still offers what they call the quad cab, which is a smaller back seat, but you can only get quad cab on Tradesman and Bighorn. Everything above there is crew cab only. Now on this truck, the Limited, you can get it with the 5'7" bed, or this bed, which is 6'4". On the Rebel and the Tungsten though, those trucks are crew cab, short bed only. So it really does depend which trim you get as to which cab and bed configuration you can go for. So rolling around the very back here, once again, dual exhaust, and we get the Mopar assist step, except for on this truck, it's in the middle. Why is it in the middle? Because we also have this optional split tailgate here. So this is nothing new for 2025. Still is a neat feature worth calling out. The whole idea is if I'm loading things in and out of my bed, I can now get that much closer. I'm not leaning over my tailgate in order to get to stuff. And then the step is there because, yeah, you're able to just climb up and in right from this center position. So a neat little trick there on the Ram tailgate, which I appreciate. Now let's hop inside and see what the interior looks like. Now we're inside the Limited. Not a massive difference in the interior. Really the differences now come down to the materials that are being used. Things like this nice wood up here in the dash, this sort of knurled metal in the middle, and then again this textured metal on the outside. The stitching. Down here it's almost this sort of quilted leather feel. You're getting that on the doors as well. So yeah, some of those just sort of more luxurious appointments to set this truck apart. In terms of features, there's a couple little things here, such as this is the first truck we've driven today with massaging seats, which is always nice to have. So yes, your seats can give you a massage while you drive, but maybe more importantly, well, first let me turn this on because I want to feel it. Massage me, Ram. Nice. Maybe more importantly though, we are in the high output Hurricane. So let's put my foot into it and see what the 540 horsepower feels like. Here we go. Oh, it burned rubber right there. I'm only in this small parking lot, so I can't really ring it out. But wow, off the line, that's a pronounced difference from the non-high output 3-liter. It even wanted to, burn rubber on me as I was still accelerating. So yeah, very impressive power from this Hurricane. And once again, there is usually the thought that as you step up in trims, as you step up in luxury, you should also get more power. And that is absolutely true here as well. You know what? The over 400 horse in the regular version felt fine, but this high output feels ridiculously quick, which is nice in a luxury truck. Now, two other things I need to talk about. The first one is this is the first truck we've had with the hands-free active driving assist. So as I mentioned earlier, this is now level 2 autonomous driving on pre-mapped routes. You can't just go anywhere, but on specific routes on the highway, you can now be fully hands-free in this truck. It will drive for you. It will now monitor you as well, so you can see up here in front of the steering wheel, there's a little array right there. That's watching me, that's watching my eyes to make sure I'm paying attention. That is a requirement of level 2 autonomous drive, so you'll see a little thing like that also in the GM and Ford trucks that support this. But yeah, again, Ram was the last one to this party, and because everyone else has it, they pretty much needed it too. And then finally, I do have to spit out the payload, and once again, we're in the second to top trim luxury truck, and the payload's not great at just over 1,100 pounds. Now it's time for the new luxury monster in the lineup, the Tungsten. Let's get into it. And finally, folks, we arrive here, the top trim luxury truck in the 2025 Ram 1500 lineup with the Tungsten. Tungsten is a new trim here at Ram. So yes, you can now take it to an even higher level of luxury. And again, like the other trucks, it sets itself apart right up front with a unique grille. The other thing you're gonna see here, all the chrome accents around the grille, chrome in that lower grille, and then even chrome strips down the side of the truck. So yes, definitely that sort of blinged out chrome right in your face is going to signify the Tungsten. Now down here, we get a set of 22s, which we've had on some of the other trucks, but here, the 22s are actually standard, and that's the case with most of the things you're gonna see on this truck. It's top trim, so most of these features are totally standard. Like the last truck, we do get a set of power running boards down there as well. Now, as we come across to the back, this is one feature we haven't seen on any of the trucks yet today. Of course, it's available on multiple trims. The Ram boxes. So Ram boxes, not at all a new feature, still something really clever, lockable, weatherproof storage that you can have on your truck if you have valuable tools, anything like that. Nice to have the Ram boxes. And then these ones also have a 400-watt plug in them too. So if you do want to plug something in the box and charge it, you can do that. The one downside to Ram boxes, of course, besides the cost, is that they do eat up some of your bed width inside the bed. I can crack this and you can see it. Of course, that's the power tailgate too. So yeah, you lose some of that bed width. Not really any more width than the wheel wells, but at the rears and at the front, yeah, you lose some of that space. Still, if you have a specific use for those Ram boxes, I do think they're worth it. And again, power tailgate, all you gotta do there is lift and up it goes. Now let's go inside and I'll show you where the real luxury is. And now truly where the Tungsten sets itself apart is in the interior. And actually the first thing I want to show you is just the key, because even it is unique. And you'll notice the tungsten key kind of matches this tungsten plaque that's down below, same kind of design. And then even on the face of it, you're getting all chrome buttons. This is the only truck in the lineup to get those. And yes, you can pop your tailgate from the key fob, and you can even dump your airbags from the key fob. That's not specific to tungsten, but still pretty cool to have that. And then of course, we also have automatic start here as well. So again, jumping in here, there's a couple things you notice right away. The first one is the Klipsch audio system. So the Tungsten gets a unique audio system separate from the Harman Kardon system that you're getting in all the other trucks. And I did turn it up. It does sound pretty good. Wouldn't say it's a massive difference, but yes, if you do want that unique audio experience, you got to come to Tungsten for it. The other thing you notice right away are the seats. The seats are comfortable, but more than that, they adjust in a ton of different ways. There's upper bolsters, lower bolsters, thigh bolsters, all those things are adjustable. There are power adjustable headrests here, all using the switches over here on my driver's side door. And these are massaging seats as well. So yes, just overall seat comfort is definitely a step above the rest of the lineup because of how many functions and controls you get with these seats. Now, outside of that, Almost everything you're going to see in this truck is now standard. Things like the 14.5-inch center stack, the passenger screen over there, this beautiful suede headliner, and then the massive panoramic sunroof above my head. All that stuff is built directly into this truck because, yeah, this is top trim. There's only a couple of options you can even pick here. Most of what you see is standard. And then the materials once again change. We're getting different leather. We're getting this sort of bronze colored motif in the stitching up here on the dash. The dash is fully leather wrapped. Even over here, the shift knob has this really unique design to it. Everything feels textured and really nice to touch. So going up to tungsten, it's not like, again, suddenly the interior is all new. It's just about getting some of those more premium feeling and premium looking materials here. And I will say, I kind of expected to be let down by this truck, but sitting in here, yeah, it does actually feel legitimately different than that Limited, just with some of those small features that make it feel more luxurious. Now we'll take it for a short drive. So yes, tungsten is standard high output Hurricane. So you're getting the 540 horsepower, that ridiculous power. That's of course what you want in your top trim luxury truck. We also have the hands-free driving assist. So all of the autonomous goodies that you could want. Yes, this truck comes absolutely packed with luxury. And I'll comment on it kind of like I did the Rebel. Once again, from behind the wheel, there isn't a massive difference between these trucks, which is okay. You know what? You don't need to separate the driving experience because they're all fairly comfortable, quiet cruising trucks, which is good news, basically from Tradesman straight up through Tungsten. Now, finally, the last number I have to spit at you, once again, is the payload. And as predicted, this is the lowest payload of the group. Although I was happy to see it's still a little bit above 1,000 pounds. I have seen a Tungsten that had a payload under 1,000 pounds because there's still a couple things you can add here. Things like the split tailgate back there, that'll add weight. And then one new option is a inverter which offers up to 2 kilowatts of power, and you can access that from plugs in the bed. That's the one thing I'm a little disappointed to see, that the inverter wasn't added as standard equipment here on the Tungsten. Again, as this top trim truck, you'd think that they would have just baked that in, but no, they did not. So if you added all those features, you can get the payload of this truck under 1,000 pounds, but still right around that 1,000 pound mark is where you can expect this to be. And now just sort of wrapping up my whole point on payload, remember the Tradesman? It had over 1,600 pounds of payload. So yes, from that Tradesman to this Tungsten, there is 600 pounds worth of features that have been added onto this truck. So yes, as you walk up the trim walk, you put more stuff in here, and that payload number comes down. So if you still do want sort of the hardest working trucks in the lineup, you definitely want to stay in a lower trim. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this one, and this was a great opportunity to drive every trim in the lineup from this basic Tradesman right here right up to the Tungsten, so you can really see the differences. And there are a ton of features that Ram bakes into those top trucks that don't come to the base trucks. So yes, it depends on what you want to do. Do you need to cruise around on road most of the time and ferry some customers around for your business? Well, you probably want to get something like this Limited. Or if you are a hard worker, maybe you just go for that base Tradesman. Still nice to see we have these options in pickup trucks. Although I will also say it's safe to say that at the base end, these aren't just basic transportation anymore. Even the lowest trim trucks these days have a ton of standard features, and that's the case here with the Ram as well. So folks, now I need to hear from you. What do you think about the whole Ram lineup? Which one is your favorite? Which trim would work best for you? Are you sad that the HEMI went away? Of course, none of these trucks were V8 powered here today. So please, I want to hear all of your thoughts. Go down in the comments. Let me know what you think of the 2025 Ram 1500. As always, while you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. See ya.